Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brad Pietruszka. I'm an Operations Section Chief with Rocky Mountain Complex Incident Management Team 1. My position on the fire is what's called a Strategic Operations Chief. So for today's update, we're going to go a little different from the fire by fire, here's what we're doing right now, how that's going, and we're going to zoom out a little bit. So to place this fire in context, Oregon is in the midst of a historically busy season with over 20 complex incident management teams out, scattered across the state. Washington, which is also in the Pacific Northwest region, has a number of challenging fires in its own right. So zooming in a little closer to us, one, we're hitting on a few strategic topics I want to bring up. One is resource availability. When fires are widespread, like we find ourselves right now, the availability of resources becomes really constrained. Looking at the total situation report today, there's about 22,000 firefighters that are assigned nationwide. Preparedness level is 5, which is the highest level, meaning that resources are stretched thin in multiple areas of the country. Zooming in a little closer on this cluster of fires around Oakridge, there are 4 other incident management teams managing separate complexes or incidents around us. So to our west, we have North Carolina Team 1 managing the cluster of fires in the Cottage Grove complex. As we go to our southwest, Great Basin CIM 5 managing the Homestead complex. To our south, around Limolo and that nest, little bit of fires down there, that's PNW 7 managing those. And to our east on the Deschutes National Forest is Eastern Area Team 1 managing a number of fires over there. We find ourselves in the Oakridge vicinity, kind of walled in by complex incident management teams around us, all of which have their own priority fires while we have our priorities as well. I believe that has been covered in previous ones, but priority-wise, this southern perimeter of chalk remains our highest priority incident-wide. That's the side of the fire that, without suppressive action, which is what we're taking pretty aggressively on it, could threaten the community of Oakridge, West Fir, and High Prairie in the future. Again, that's our highest priority. We've really had our eye on that since we transferred command a few days ago. Work continues to go well, progressing out there. There are 2 other fires that are a lot smaller, around 20 acres apiece, Tire Mountain and McKinley Creek. Apologies, because I have to remind myself. So on those fires, there is line around them. Crews are making steady progress. There's some challenging pieces, so they're going to be out there for a little bit, but we do feel like we're in a pretty good space with those. Moving further south, we have broken the fire into branches just to maintain our span of control. Our next priority, and working really closely with a lot of our partners, is these Coffee Pot and Moss Mountain fires. And I'm briefing to a really colorful map today. This is what we call a strategic operations map. Essentially what you see, all these reds, these yellows, these are critical values at risk that have been identified to us from Sierra Pacific Industries, the Willamette National Forest, the communities of Oakridge, West Fir, and High Prairie, Sheriff's Office. So all those partners come together and they give the team the critical values. That's what these red and yellow things are. As you can see, industrial timberlands, we've got some bull trout habitat, obviously Highway 58 corridor, including the Union Pacific rail line. There's energy transmission, there's communities, all of this kind of stuff, right? So we're trying to thread this needle strategically between providing protection to those values while balancing it against the risk of the firefighters that they're taking out there to provide this values protection. Again, what's different this year is that resource perspective. Previous years, relatively early season fires on the Willamette could have had a lot more resources than we find ourselves. We're sitting in that 400 to 500 range and relatively speaking in a pretty good spot compared to numerous other fires around us. But is it everything we would like? No, it isn't, quite honestly. Aviation is extremely limited, and so that kind of confines us with what our options might be. So moving on to our second priority, which is Coffee Pot and Moss Mountain. You see these blue lines. Those are what we're calling our primary lines right now. So that's where our energy and our effort and our focus is. We've been working really closely with SPI, Sierra Pacific Industries, to validate these lines, get a lot of their expertise and their equipment and operators out helping us. So that's in the process right now. We think with that level of support from an equipment standpoint, we stand a reasonably good chance of getting these lines in while the Coffee Pot fire continues to move here to the east under predominantly westerly winds. and the Moss Mountain fire kind of spreads laterally. So there's still a lot of uncertainty in the middle. Right now, I want to draw your eye to this blue line that's out here. Talking with the fellows earlier, you notice this stops. They have pieced that together, and again, that's that local knowledge that we needed. It came out there, helped us identify how to piece this stuff together, so they're starting to work on that. Now, I know that was really focused in on this time, on this fire, in this moment, but we are trying to think more broadly, understanding the impacts that east winds in the West Cascades have had on numerous communities in this area. The reason that we are favoring this is this Hills Creek Reservoir. As the Coffee Pot Fire continues to progress to the west, it will encounter Hills Creek Reservoir. So one, obviously a good holding feature, and two, getting a handle on the western perimeter, especially of these fires down here, given the adjacency of another critical value across, really helps us buy a lot of time before that east wind season climatologically sneaks up on us in late August and early September. Up on Chalk, the suppression actions that we're working, again, same kind of idea. Get a really good handle on the western perimeters in order to kind of reduce that risk when we get further into the summer and the east winds become more of an issue. I'm not forgetting about these ones. 217 has been staffed by smoke jumpers since its discovery. Things are getting really good. 208, which is now called the Peak Fire, is also one of our fires. We've been coordinating really closely with Eastern Area Team 1, trying to figure out where we're going to be able to get a handle on those in the future. Right now, fire behavior on certainly the Peak Fire is relatively limited. Slow day-to-day growth, obviously it won't stay that way, but from a values and priorities perspective, that's why this remains unstaffed. Super remote, we can't directly observe it, so we're getting creative with things like trying to leverage some UAS ability to get some better situational awareness, recurring IR flights both day and night. So while it is unstaffed, that does not mean we have forgotten our mission out here given to us from the Willamette National Forest, which is to suppress these fires as effectively and efficiently as we can, given our constraints of resources and numerous other fires, not only on the Cascades, but statewide, nationwide, things like that. So that's a really quick overview with a different map and maybe a different lens. Thanks for taking the time to watch this.